Yeah, yesterday we have just discussed about the introduction about the course. Okay, what is cybersecurity, and who is a hacker, different types of hackers, and why it is important to get started, and about the prerequisites to get started. And we have learned the hackers methodology, the higher level of overview, right? So today we'll discuss about this hackers methodology in a detailed way, and how we are going to apply, and what kind of a lab setup that we required to perform the practicals in our system. Okay, so before I start the hackers methodology, I just wanted to give you a small task to you. Okay, it is not task. Okay, so I'll just give you some question to you. Just give your inputs. So the hackers methodology is something that we use it uh, you know uh, while we are dealing with the any kind of assessment. Okay, I mean, even if you're a black hat guy, or even if you're working as a ethical hacker or penetration tester, so everyone will use the same steps, okay, to perform the hacking on the system. So to understand this, so let me give you a question. So let's say I have asked you to plan a robbery, okay, on a specific person. Okay, I have given the person name to you, and I've asked you to basically plan the robbery on his house. So how you guys will be planning? Yeah, guys.
To see if there is any loophole, whether where to enter the house,
Mm-hmm.
to check and to basically we have to check where is the best possibility way to enter into the house.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Any other thoughts you are getting? Yeah. Yeah, guys. Feel free to give your inputs. Someone is saying if the house is vacant. Of course, that could be also possible. So we need to check whether they are living in the same house or not. So first, what we do uh, is, like, first we'll identify who is the person, right? Where he is living, how many people are living in that house, what kind of a house it is, how many doors they have, how many windows they have. Okay, will they have any kind of a security in terms of dogs, CCTV, or any security person, where they are working, okay, when they are leaving the house and when they are coming back to the house, right? So we need to gather all the possible information about the target. And the reason why we are doing this is to fulfill our motive, right? Maybe we are looking for a gold, or we are looking to, I mean, the robber looking for, looking for steal some kind of valuable things. So he is performing the information gathering to enter into his house. So he is performing this information gathering. So let's say they are going to the office, and while they are going, they are just locking and keeping their key next to the door. Or let's say they have a weakest window that easily someone can break it. Or there is some other way that the attacker is identified, that is very easier, safest way to enter and exit, right? So for every attack, okay, so for every attack to be success, information gathering is very, very important. So if you gather proper information about the target, the attack is going to be success. Otherwise, you will get caught. Let's say if the people are already inside the house, and if you're trying to break the window easily, they can catch you, right? So information gathering is very, very important, right? So here also, the very, very first step, what a hacker will be doing is he performs this information gathering to gather all the possible information about the target. So we call it as a reconnaissance. We can also call this as a footprinting. We call it as a footprinting, or also we can call it as a information gathering phase. Okay. So reconnaissance, footprinting, information gathering, everything is same. So this information gathering attacker will be performing using the two different ways. One is passive information gathering and one is active information gathering. So when it comes to passive information gathering, attacker will gather the information without directly communicating to the target. Maybe if I am attacking on you, I'll gather the information by looking at your social networking profiles, or maybe I'll be asking your friend. Okay, so I'll be using the different techniques, but I will not directly communicate with you to gather the information. So that is the passive. And active is something I'll be directly interacting with you, because okay, if you're doing the passive information gathering, so it is not 100%. You can say that the information is true because you are received the information from some publicly available resource, okay, from the internet. So we don't know when they have updated or when they have gathered the details, or we don't know whether it is the true information or false information, right? So until unless if we do the active information gathering, we don't know what exactly they are using. I mean, see, as an attacker, what information we gather is we gather the list of you know IP addresses, what they are using, domains, subdomains, okay, what servers they are using, what technologies they are using, okay, and employee details, etc., etc. So we'll discuss about it, okay, when we start the information gathering module. Okay, that is phase. Let's say in the information gathering phase, in the reconnaissance phase, you have the you know let's say 50 IP addresses which are belongs to the target. That is in the passive information gathering. Okay, what we do next, we perform the scanning on those 50 IP addresses. Okay, so why we perform the scanning on the, I mean, scanning is basically an active information gathering technique. Let's say you have an IP address, but let's say if they are not using the IP address, it is not connected to internet, or it is not reachable to you, it is not reachable to you, then will you be able to perform the hacking? If it is not connected to internet, okay, will you be able to perform the hacking?
No.
Right? It should be connected to internet. So what we do is the very, very first thing, whenever we have the list of IP addresses, we perform the host discovery scan. Okay, we knock all the 50 IP addresses and we'll see whether they are reachable or not. If they are reachable, I mean, whenever you are sending any kind of a packet to them, and if they are responding back to us, which means they are alive, they are active, right? Okay, first we'll identify whether it is reachable or not. So here you will learn different tools of force discovery scans. Then what we do? Okay, once it is alive, I mean, like as Pratyusha said, if they are living in that home, next thing what we do is we will try to identify. I mean, if they are vacant, of course we will come to know. Okay, when you do the host discovery scan, I mean, if they are not using that IP address, okay, we'll get to know that they are not living there. Then what we do, once we identify all the alive IP addresses, we perform the port scan. So port scan is nothing but like we will check how many doors, windows are, they have and they are using. Okay, so every system which is connected to, I mean, every system, okay, it could be a server or it could be a system, they have the 65,535 ports, right? These are the virtual ports, not physical ports like USB or HDMI or RJ45. But every system has 65,535 virtual ports, okay, which you cannot see directly. So we use these ports for running the various types of services in the system. Okay, see IP address. If you have the IP address, you can able to perform the port scan as well. So IP address is just like a name or endpoint communication with the system. But port numbers are something which are endpoint communication for the services which are running in the system. So out of 65,535, we knock every port to identify how many ports are open, like how many doors and windows are open, because they are only the entry points for the home, right? So here also the ports are the entry points into the system or a server. Okay, so we'll try to identify how many ports are open. So once we identify how many ports are open, we'll enumerate those ports, like what services are running. Okay, FTP, SSH, Telnet, HTTP, SMTP, SMB, okay, NetBIOS. Depending on like, I'm just highlighted some of the commonly used ports and services. So we'll enumerate more and more information about those open ports. What's running on it, what kind of an authentication they have, what version of those ports are running, will they have any kind of a vulnerability, etc. We also perform the vulnerability scans on those target to see if there is any vulnerabilities are matching, right? By collecting all this information, we will compare with the vulnerability database to see if any vulnerability is matching. So this can be done with an automated tools also, like as I said, Qualys and Nessus. So those tools also will perform the same thing. When you give an IP address, it checks the host discovery, it performs the host discovery scan, it knocks each and every port, it enumerate all the possible information. Whatever the information they have in their hands, they will compare with the okay the vulnerability database uh, tool, and it will tell you if in case if any version is vulnerable to any kind of a exploit kind of a thing. So if something is vulnerable, attacker will try to exploit it. Okay, they run the exploit code against the target and they get the access to the system. So here we have the third step is gaining the access. So the gaining the access can be happen using the different techniques. So I have listed over here few, like taking the bind connections, taking the reverse connections, doing the password cracking, and etc. etc. Okay, now you have entered into the house. Okay, by you have identified a vulnerability and you have like entered into the house. But what happened once you enter into the house? There is no gold. Okay, they just kept everything in the bank. Hmm? What do you do in this situation? So you have, you know, uh, spend a lot of time to perform these all these steps. You have also entered into the house. Okay, but now what happened is after entering into the house, There is no valuable things right now. They just kept everything in the bank. I mean, you are entering into the system, but it might be not right time to exploit it, or you know, the system which you wanted to exploit is a different system, or you might be thinking, you will be exploiting later sometime whenever there is any kind of a critical, thing running to give the bad impact to the organization. Like the bad guys will think in the same way. So they try to maintain the access with the same system by adding some malwares or using the persistent techniques. So they will be in the same system by having a malware into the system. So I mean, when they have the malware into their system, I mean, of course, uh, whenever they wanted to communicate or whenever they wanted to have the persistent communication, they'll be able to get the communication. It is not like they have to again start their attack phase from the reconnaissance, because they have identified a loophole. They have already entered inside the house. Okay. But next time, whenever you are trying to come, okay, so who knows, the entry point, whatever you have used to enter, might be patched or secured now. You cannot enter again, right? So what an attacker will do is, as soon as they enter into the system, they try to maintain the access. Okay, they try to maintain the access by injecting some kind of a malwares, and they will create the persistent connectivity between the target system and attacker system, so that whenever they wanted to have the communication with their system, okay, they will be having the access to. Then later they perform the attack, and while they are exiting from the system, okay, while they are coming back from the system, they will clear or delete or manipulate all the logs, okay, so that the forensic investigator team will not get to know this. So this is about the 5 phases of hacking. Uh, any questions, guys? Okay, cool. If you have any questions, just yep, as I said, just send it in the chat. I'll reply to them. Uh, so next, let's go with the lab setup. So as I said, we'll be covering both theoretically and practically. So we'll be covering the practical part in our own lab setup. Okay. So I suggest you to create your own lab. Okay. Inside the virtual box. So how do we create our own lab? And what are the different systems that are required to practice? Is the very first thing is Kali Linux operating system. Okay. So first, let me teach you how to create the virtualization. Okay. So there are virtualization softwares we have. One is the VMware, and one is the Oracle VirtualBox Manager, which is free. I mean, VMware Workstation Player also free. But I suggest you to go with the uh, Oracle VirtualBox. Okay, so you can just visit to virtualbox.org/wiki/downloads. I'm just putting this link in this chat. Okay, so go to this website. Then here you have the different packages for the various platforms. So I think everyone is using the Windows operating system as a local machine, as a base machine. So you can go and download this for the Windows host. Okay. Along with it, you can also go and download the extension pack. Okay. So first download the Oracle Virtual Box, okay, package. then go and download the extension pack as well. So if you have this extension pack, it supports for connecting the external USB devices to the virtual system, supports for RDP disk encryptions and other Intel cards and etc. So you also go and download the extension pack. So first install the virtual box. Okay. So but once you install the virtual box, it will give you the icon like this. Okay. This just next. Okay. Just to after downloading it, just go with the next. Automatically it will get installed. Then after that, you can just simply go to the files, preferences. Then here you have an extensions, and you can add the extension that you have downloaded from the website. Or you can simply double click on the extension once you have downloaded, automatically it will get imported. Okay. So once you're done with the installation part, then you require the Kali Linux operating system to be installed. So you can just go and visit the kali.org. This is the official website of the Kali. So here you can see the Kali Linux is an open source Debian based Linux distribution which geared towards the various information security tasks such as penetration testing, security research, and computer forensic and reverse engineering. Right. So it has all the tools which are pre-installed. So we are also going to use this Kali Linux operating system to perform the or learn the attacks. So you can click on download. So once you click on download, here you have the different types of I can say flavors of the Kali. So here you have the bare metal. Okay, so it is used for bootable stuff. But and you also have the other images like ARM, mobile, cloud, etc. But we are not going with it. We are interested in virtual machines. So the Kali people are giving the live images, pre-built images for VMware and VirtualBox. This will allow directly install the snapshot into the VMware or VirtualBox without any additional configurations. So just click on the virtual machine. It will give you the 64-bit and 32-bit images. So as we are using the VirtualBox, you can click here. If you have a torrent, you can also download it using the torrent. The downloading speed is good in the torrent. So you can download the latest version from here. Okay, once you have downloaded, it will look like this. Let me show you that. So once you download it, it will look like this. This is OVA file. Okay, Open Virtualization Format Archive file. So once it got downloaded, simply you can double click. Okay, automatically it will give you an option for import virtual appliances and all the appliance settings. You can just simply give import, agree. It will take 5 to 6 minutes. Automatically it will get imported into the virtual box. It is easiest way to install the virtual box, and once you are installed, you can access it with this default credentials. The username is Kali and password is also Kali. So you can just simply, once it is got imported, so here you need to click on the start. Then it'll ask you for the username and password. Then you can give the Kali and Kali to access it. Similarly, uh, you can also go and download the, not similarly, because Kali is having uh, you know in the OVA format. But if you want to install the legacy Windows operating system, maybe Server 2008 R2 or Windows 7 or Windows 10 kind of an operating systems, you can download the ISO image from the internet. Then you have to install it manually. Okay, so that I'll teach you how to do it. But now you can see the one which we have created just now is got imported. So before I start this machine, I'll just keep this machine in the bridge mode. Why I'll keep this in the bridge mode is, I'll tell you. Or let me start, okay? Then I'll tell you. You can just click on the start. Then give the default credentials. And we have logged in. Okay. So here is the Kali machine up and running. So if you see the very top left corner, you have a Kali symbol and it shows as an applications. So if you click on this, it will give you all the available applications in the Kali Linux operating system, and they are arranged, okay, with the different category wise. So this is all information gathering related tools, all vulnerability analysis tools, web application related tools, database, password cracking, Wi-Fi, reverse engineering, exploitation, sniffing, post exploitation, forensic reporting, social engineering, and other reference links from the offensive security. Right? So we'll be using the tools from here. This is about the applications and all the tools which are pre-installed in the Kali. And this is just like minimizing and maximizing when you have the multiple windows. And this is the file system, like how we have the my computers in the Windows operating system. So similar way, here we have the desktop documents, okay, the other uh, you know directories over here. Then this is important. Okay, this is, we call it as a terminal, okay, where we executes all the different types of commands in the Kali. Okay, this is only something which directly executes the commands. This is terminal. So you can give control plus plus to increase the font size. And now if you see who I am, it says you are Kali because you are logged in into the uh, of course you are logged in into the Kali machine with whose account? Kali and Kali with the default username and default password. But who is the administrator over here? Okay. See, in Windows we call it as administrator, but in the Kali we call it as a root user. So root user is the highest privileged user in the Kali Linux operating system. And to execute the different types of programs which requires the root privileges, administrative level privileges, uh, we use sudo. Okay, we use sudo. Let's say uh, I want to execute some program. Okay, so let's say I want to add a user. Okay, I'm basically trying to add a user inside the system, but it says that only root may add a user or group to the system. It's saying that the person who has the root access, they can only be able to add the user, it seems. So how do we able to get this root access? Okay, in Windows, we will simply right click and say run as an administrator, and it might ask a password you will be giving, and of course it will happen. But here, when you wanted to shift to the root user, you can use sudo hyphen I. Okay, sudo hyphen I. Then it's saying that we trust you have received the usual lecture from the local system administrator. It is usually boils down these three things, because the root user is the highest privileged user in the system. So usually no one will give the root user to the Linux operating system, because they can do anything if they have the root user access. Okay, especially in the servers. That's the reason the Kali itself is created a user inside the system called Kali, and they gave password. Before that, like in early 2021 version, they used to give the directory root access to the Kali machine, root and tour. But now they created a Kali and they gave to us. So here you can give the password Kali. Sorry. Now you can see you are inside the root. Previously you are Kali. Okay. Now you are root. Right. So now if you type who am I, you are the root user. Okay. Now if you type add user, maybe let me create a user. Yeah. You can see it is asking me to give the password. Let me confirm the password and name. Okay. Something, these details are not required. You can just give next, next, next. Is this information correct? Yes. Now the user is created with the password. Okay. Next time, by giving this username and password also, you can actually log in into the Linux operating system. Okay. Yep. So how many are new to the Linux operating system, so that I'll come to know whether, to spend some time over here to make you comfortable with all the Linux commands. That is just basic things I'm going to teach you to deal with the uh, day-to-day activities. It is not something we are going to spend more and more time over here into the Linux, because we need to cover the ethical hacking as well, right? So okay, so most of them are new. Fine. See, what I encourage you is, of course, you can. I mean, I'll give you the resource to learn, and I'll also teach you all the necessary stuff. You install the Linux operating system and start exploring this more and more. Nothing will happen. Okay, if something goes wrong, we'll uninstall the virtual machine and we'll reinstall it. Okay, that is what the maximum damage that we can do it. I mean, that can happen. So no worry about it. Okay, because it's just a virtual machine inside the local host, so there is no harm, there is no damage that can happen to it. Okay, play with all the tools, run all the tools. If something goes wrong, just uninstall it and install the new one. Okay, nothing will happen, but I'm just telling you. Okay. Uh, okay. So the basic commands. Okay. Uh, so if I give ls, okay, if I give ls, it will tell you what are the different types of files are present. Okay, there is no files are present. If you give ls, it will list out all the files. But let me see first where I am, in which directory I am. So I'll give pwd, present working directory. So it says you are inside the root. Okay. Okay, if I give ls, it says there is nothing, there is no folders or directories over here, right? So let me create a directory, which is make directory, which is test. Okay, now if I give ls, there is a test directory is created. Let me go inside the directory. So I use cd, change directory, test. You can see I am inside the test directory. So Linux is a case sensitive. Let's say you created a directory which is capital TEST, and if you try to enter into small TEST, it will take you to the small TEST only, because there will be able to, okay, okay, it is just renamed, but it is a case sensitive. Okay, it is created inside the test actually. If you want to go back from it, okay, now you should give ls. Let's say if I'm creating a make directory test and ls, you can see there are two directories are created with the same name, because it's a case sensitive, guys. Okay, if you want to enter into any specific directory, you need to properly specify it. Okay, it's not like a Windows, like uh, if you give small and capital, it will take it automatically. You have to properly specify it. You can say I'm going to a different test now, right? You can give Control L, it will directly take you to the up. Okay, I mean it will be there, but yeah, directly will take you to the up. Now here I want to create a text file inside this test directory. I want to create a text file. So to create a text file in the Windows, what we use, which utility we'll be using to create a text file in the Windows? Yeah, guys.
Open the notepad, then we have to save it in text form.
Yeah, you and we should have a notepad over there, right? So here also same. Okay, but here we'll be not having a notepad. Here we have something called mousepad. Okay, here we have something called mousepad. So first we'll call the mousepad, then we'll give the name. So let's say my file. Okay, so as soon as you mousepad, and if you give my file, so it is not open. And let me give mousepad file. Okay, if the mousepad is not working, we have the other things also. No worries. Actually, mousepad will give you the pop-up because I'm not sure. I'm running the older version of the Linux. Okay. Uh, just now I have installed installed. We need to see what is this error is. There is a config error. That's fine. Okay, if you update it, it will goes off. Uh, okay, let's see if there is any file created. Okay, there is no file created. So you can use, instead of the mousepad, you can also use nano file.txt. Okay, you can see it is created. So we have nano also. You can use nano, and here you can give your data. Okay, this is my first uh, text file. Here is my sensitive information. So you can type all your sensitive information or whatever the information over there. and you can give, okay, control X. So here is a text file, and if you want to open it, you can open it with the nano again, okay, and again you can give control X, done. But if you want to just read that file without opening in the nano or without opening in the you know mouse pad, yeah, mouse pad is not, it is not opening, you can use cat, you can give file name, it will just give you the output of that file. Okay, let's say I want to move this file to the different directory, you can use move, then you can give the file name, and you can, maybe you can move it to home, Kali, let's say desktop. You can see you have a file.txt over here in the desktop, right? Or you can just simply go to the home, Kali, desktop, and here is the file that we have moved from the root directory to Kali user desktop, right? And let's say I want to rename it, you can simply use again move command, you can give the file name, and you can give maybe file1.txt. Now it will convert as a file1.txt. So for rename also we use the move mv. I want to copy this file cp, okay, file1.txt. I want to copy this to the home and Kali directory. So if I go one folder back now with the cd dot dot, I have the file over here. Okay, let's say I know that there is a file in the Linux operating system with the name of the file1.txt, but I don't know the location where I have exactly saved it. To understand the scenario, I know that there is a file which I have saved with the file1.txt, but I don't know where it exactly got stored. So we use locate file1.txt. It is not working. File. Is locating the packages another part. Okay, I think it's not going to locate our created files. It's going to help us to locate the different directories and different default files. Okay, so you can use the locate command to identify any kind of a specific file where it got saved and what are the different places it is present. Okay, and let's say I want to delete it. I want to delete it. You can use remove. Okay, you can just use remove over here. It got deleted, right? So yeah, I've just given you an overview of like the commands that we use regularly, like to move and navigate to one directory to another directory. But I want you to go and cover the Linux structure. Okay, root, under the root, what all the different types of other directories are there and what purpose, what are the different files will get stored in what place, and also the Linux permissions is very very important. Let's say you have created a file, okay, 2.txt, and if you want to see the permissions of this file, You can give ls hyphen l. You can give ls hyphen l. That will give you the, it will give you the permissions. So it says the desktop is a directory with the D, and here you have the read, write, execute, okay, read and write execute, and here also you have the read and write execute and read and write execute. Okay, I mean there you don't have the execute option for the other two users. Understand? Whenever you see the what we call, whenever you see this hyphen symbol or minus symbol, which means there is no permissions are there. Okay, which is, I mean, there is no permissions are there. So what is this three read and write? Three read and write things. Do you know why? If you have read and write, that is fine. Okay. So if you have read and write, that is, of course it is fine. But why there are three times read and write? Because the first one is for users. Okay, no. The first one is for users, like maybe I've logged in as a Kali, right? So it is for the Kali or root or whatever the user you have logged in. The second one is for the group users. Okay, if in case if you have created a group, it is for the group user. And the third one is for others. And the third one is for others. So now you can see for this file, there is only read access for the other two users, like group users and other users. But we have the read and write access for the our user, okay, root user. So I want to assign all the permissions to them. So in the Linux, the permission, model, uh, like if you wanted to give or change any kind of a permissions, we use a command called chmod. Okay, change chmod. Okay, so we use this command chmod. Then we we can define the permissions using the different ways. Like we can define the permissions using the numbers. We can also define the permissions using the what we call. Let's say I want to give the read and write executable to a specific user. You can also define like that. Okay. So let me explain you. Let's say if you want to give the read, write, executable, okay, for the Linux. So I mean, if you want to provide all the permissions to user, you can give 7. I'll tell you why we use this 7. Because in the Linux, okay, so read is 4, okay, then execute, which is 3, okay, then sorry, it is 7, right? Let me tell you that. Okay, first let me give you uh, okay, first let me give you all the permissions. Okay, then we'll come there. So I'm giving 7, 7, 7, which means I'm giving the read, write, execute option to everyone. Okay, I'm giving read and write execute options to everyone, and let me give the file name. You can just check it out. This is the permissions that right now the file is having. But now, if I give this, sorry, spelling mistake. Yeah, now you should give this chmod 777 and enter. And if you go and check it out, the ls-l, so it will assign the permissions to everyone, which is read, write, access, right? So why I have given the 7 is a question, right? Because so the permission works like this. Okay. So when you have 0, okay, which is hyphen, of course, like if I give 700, okay, I mean I'm removing all the permissions of the other two users for the file 1.txt. Enter. Now you can see what happened. So let me give 0, 0. So as I said, 0 is nothing but it's gonna remove all the permissions. You can see it removed all the permissions to other two users. So let's say, okay, that is fine. So if I give 1, okay, which is execute. If I give 1, which is execute. Let's say I'm giving 1, 1. So for the first user, we are giving all the permissions. For other two users, we are only giving the execute. You can see only we have the execute over here for other two users. So similarly, we have this numbering. Okay, so if you give 2, it is right. Okay. And if you give 3, it is basically execute plus right. You can see here 1 plus 2, how much? It is 3, right? So when I write 3, it will give you the two permissions. Okay, execute plus right. Then comes 4. Okay, it is the read. Right. Similarly, you can use this all the combinations to assign the permissions. Let's say if you give 5 now, what will happen? It will give you the execute plus read. So if you give 7 now, what will happen? It will give you the execute, write, and read. The same thing is happening over here whenever I am giving chmod 777 file 1. It is giving all the permissions. Hence it's giving all the permissions. So this is how the Linux permissions works. I think in upcoming sessions, once you practice it, you will learn them. So I'll give you a website to you from where you can do some self study to get a better understanding of the basic commands. So you can go to linuxcommands.org. So I'm just putting it in the chat. So here you can see, I mean, once you install it, once you install Linux operating system, you have Linux installed and running. The GUI is working fine, but you're getting tired of changing your desktop themes. Don't worry, we'll show you what to do. So you just click on the what to do, and they'll tell you why to bother about learning the Linux and what is the importance of this. Then you can start reading from the here. What is the shell, terminal, and what is the commands? With the screenshots you have, right? So I think you'll be able to complete this in a day. Okay, if you start, here this is the file structure. You have been boot dev under the root. So you will get to know the permission model, the command like pwd, present working directory, ls, cd, how do we write this command, how do we enter into it. Okay, all the basic commands here, um, you know, in this particular website, it's there. How to use ls hyphen la. So we have already used some, and we also discussed about the permission model. But of course, yeah, whenever you have some time, go and look at into this. Okay, complete this Linux basic part. And from tomorrow, okay, we'll start with the reconnaissance module. Uh, yeah. So meanwhile, you can install the lab. You can set up your own lab, and you can, hands-free yourself into the Linux operating system, so that it will be very easy for you to get started the actual modules. Okay. So this is about the today's session, guys. Uh, yeah, lab setup part, and understanding the hackers methodology and the Linux basics. Tomorrow we'll start with the information gathering module. So for that, I want you to install the Linux operating system, so that you guys can do simultaneously with me, okay, whenever I am doing a practical. So yeah, so yeah, this is about the today's session. Let me know if you have any queries.